Hi, it's Guthrie Govan here, taking you through the solo and rhythm parts from Steve Vai's Big Trouble, which you can find on the David Lee Roth album, Eat 'em and Smile. Let's start with the intro, seems like a reasonable thing to do. For this one, you'll need some octave shapes. So just to get you started, if you try putting your index finger on the A string at the 9th fret, and then use the underside of it to mute the D string. And now use your 3rd finger at the G string, 11th fret. And if you try that index finger idea, you should find you can get fairly physical with this shape. Hitting all the strings, but only hearing those two. Now, the actual melody you need is... Alright, so once you've got that shape, all you need to do is slide up 2 frets and then down again. And that part at the end, you slide up 2 frets and then a further 3 frets. Alright, so that riff one more time. 2, 3, 4. Now let's have a look at the verse part. There's a basic 2-bar pattern that repeats with occasional fills. So if we cover the general part first, and then we can look at each fill in turn. The general script should sound something like this. So things we need to know about this section. You've got this chord here, which is a 4th fret on the A string, 2nd fret on the D string, and 4th fret on the G. But the clever thing about this chord is that you let the 2 top strings ring out, which gives it a nice open Hendrixy kind of sound, especially if you rake it, rather than, you can take your time with the pick. So basically all you have to do is alternate that chord with these ideas on the low E string. To start off, you've got open E, and then 2nd fret, 4th fret, 2nd fret. It's going to sound a little bit more powerful if you mute slightly at the bridge for those low string moments. And the 2nd bar, similar kind of idea, but a bit more syncopated. In other words, if your hand's moving naturally in this down, up motion, you'll find that more of the notes fall on upstrokes. So... And those 2 notes at the end really aren't notes. They're just some muted percussive effects on the high strings. So that riff again. So that brings us on to the first fill. So what's going on there is start off with the 6th interval up here. So you slide up to the 11th fret on the A, and then 9th fret on the G, which you slide down 1 fret to the 8th. And now you need a 9th fret note on the D, and then on the B string. So a little recap, we go. Now this note here on the B string, slide it down 2 frets, pull off to the 5th fret, and now you want the 6th fret on the G string, which you're going to try and bend up a tone whilst adding a pinched harmonic. Anyone who's not used to that technique, the general idea is just to use the side of your thumb to graze the string as you pick it. So that whole fill again, 2, 3, 4. All right, the next fill of interest sounds something like this. All you need to do there is a 5th fret harmonic on the top E string, and then 3 harmonics at the same fret on the B string. To do these, you just rest your fingertip lightly right above the fret, but don't actually push the string down. So. All right, the next fill really doesn't have many notes in it at all. If you took away the whammy bar, what you'd have left would be all 8th and 9th fret stuff on the G string. Doesn't sound too much fun until you start wobbling the bar about as you do it. And a degree of randomness is probably a good thing here. Just to mutilate the pitch a little bit and make it sound nicely odd and Vi-esque. And now for some more technically exciting stuff. There's a fill a little bit later. It sounds something like this. Now the idea there is based on a C-sharp Dorian mode. So if you know the notes of that scale, you've got a head start here. If not, here they are. Basically, you need 19, 18, and 16 on the top E, 19, 17, and 16 on the B, 18, 16, and 15 on the G, and 18, 16, and 14 on the D string. So, bear in mind that later on this lick, you'll also have to slide that D string note down to the 13th fret. But that's a general map of this lick. Now, if we look at the exact order of the notes, you find that each string in turn uses this pattern, where you go from the highest note to the lowest note, and then roll all the way up and down. So basically a 6-note pattern. And then you apply the same pattern on each string in turn. And then at the end, slide down 1 fret and round things off by playing the 14th fret on the A string and sliding up to that root note of the 16. So the whole lick nice and slow, it would be 2, 3, 4. And there's one last fill you can hear in the fade out, which sounds something like this. Let's slow that right down. You start here, first finger on the bottom E string, 4th fret, you slide up to the 9th, and hammer on at the 12th fret, same string. Now you should have this little chord shape set up with the 11th fret on the A and the 9th on the D. So having done this part, you now sweep the A and D strings, just dragging the pick downwards, and slide the D string note up to the 11th fret. Okay, so far we've got the next part, another sweep. There's a pleasing looking diagonal shape here. Just goes from the 14th fret on the D string to the 11th fret on the E, diagonally like that. So you do all those notes with one pick stroke down towards the floor. And then the 14th fret on the E string, you pick that and slide up to the 19th. Now another little sweep, this time upwards. So you're going 16 on the E, 17 on the B, and 18 on the G. Pull off to the 16. So recap again. So far we've got... And to round that off, this starts out like a country lick and then goes horribly wrong. So what you're doing there is bending the B string up a tone from the 19th fret, hold it there, play the 19th fret on the top E, and then pull both of those pitches up a further tone with the bar. So that whole lick again. There's lovely. And that's it. That's the verse. Well, now that we've got the verse all done and dusted, I suppose we should move on to the chorus. Well, the chorus section varies ever so slightly as we move through the song, but the general idea should sound something like this. 2, 3, 4, and... So the basic idea with this riff is that part there, which is basically 2 power chords, F sharp 5 and E5. So it stays on F sharp for 3 in a row, and then down to E, then back to F sharp. You might be interested in this slightly unusual fingering, which I think makes it a bit cleaner. It's worth trying out. Everyone's hands feel different, but the idea there would be to have your first finger on the A string at the 2nd fret, and then use your 2nd and 4th fingers to do the barring. A more conventional but slightly less accurate way is just to play it like that. Choice is yours. Experiment. Okay, the other consistent feature of this chorus part is they're muted notes. It's more of a rhythmic effect than a melodic one. But the idea here is to mute the strings with as many of these fingers as possible. If you mute them with just one finger, you run the risk of getting harmonics. You don't want that, you just want a nice thump. So by using several of your fingers there, you eradicate any danger of a harmonic cropping up, spoiling things for you. Other points of interest there. That part there, which has something of a Van Halen feel to it. Basically an A-shaped chord in the key of B, and you're letting that open string ring out, top E. So that little melody there is the E string, B string, and G string in that order. You'll note later on in the chorus, you'll play the same lick, but 12 frets higher. So you've got the option there. You can either play the chord down here, where it feels normal, or up here. Thus keeping things a little bit varied as it moves through the song. There's one other fill you might need to know about, which is once again, Hendrixy octave shapes, but this time on the D and B strings. So you'd start with the 14th fret and the 17th fret there, and then slide down 3, pick it again, and slide down a further 2. Right then, now we should move on to the bridge, which happens just before that classic solo. The bridge sounds something like this. It starts off on a B5 chord, and you're just chugging away there. So in general, the first of every pair of notes is the whole chord, and that will be followed, the second note, by a little muted note on the A string. So you get this nice driving effect. And then something of a shocking lick all the way up here. And this lick here, which uses an octave shape on the G and E strings at the 16th and 19th fret. So you slide up to there, and then back to the G string, and then you fret the 17th on the B and pull off to the 16th. And then the G string again. So. And now you have to jump all the way down here to the 11th fret on the A string, followed by the 14th. So. And then there's a couple of double stops to round things off. Now the basic melody for that part is 13 on the D, pulling off to the 11th, and then 14th fret on the A string to round things off. But what Steve's doing is barring with the index finger, so instead of just hitting the D string, he's hitting the G as well. Just to thicken things out a little bit. So that whole lick again. And now for a couple of arpeggiated chords. That one there is an A sus2, much like a normal open A shape, but you don't need that B string note. And then an F sharp minor 11, which is a very similar shape, but with the 2nd fret added on the low E string. And then for this next part, This note on the A string is optional, but I think it thickens the sound out nicely. So the idea here is that you've got the 4th fret notes on the A string, G string and B string, and then that open E string ringing throughout. So you probably recognise that picking pattern from the chorus section we looked at earlier. E string, B string, G string, repeat as necessary. And then the same thing, but taking that finger off, so you've got an open A string. And now back to the F sharp minor 11. And then those 2 notes there, just to round things off. So that whole section again. And now we're ready for the solo. And now for the moment we've all been waiting for, the solo. The first section sounds something like this. 2, 3, 4. Now, if we break that down, a lot of it's country flavoured and using 6th intervals. So to give you the general idea, imagine this A7th shape down there, where you're alternating between picking the D string in the normal manner and plucking the B string with your middle finger. The other shapes you'll need for this part would be the same idea, 2 frets higher, and that one there, which is the 5th fret on the B, 6th fret on the D. So that gives you the core of the lick. Now for the exact notes. You start off with the D string, 2nd fret, slide up to the 4th, now pluck the B, now back to the D string, slide down, pluck the B again, pick the D and slide up 4. So far you've got... And from there, you pluck the B string at the 5th, back to the D, B string again, but this time the 7th fret, and down to the D string, 4th fret. So it's a little octave shape there. And from there, it's a 6th fret on the G, sliding down to the 4, pull off to the 2nd, and round off with that note. And the next part is a B string, slide down to the 2nd fret, and then D string again, B string again, and then both together. So that whole lick again. Now for the next part, what you're doing here is sliding from the 4th up to the 5th on the B string, and then plucking a note of the same pitch on the open E string. And now you pluck the B string again, slide down, pluck the E, back to the B string, and then 4th fret on the G string. So. And from this note you slide up to the 6th fret, and now it's the open E, open B, and the G string still at the 6th fret. Slide down to the 4th. And now you have to slide up to this chord, the B major shape, 7th on the B, 8th on the G, 9th on the D. And after picking it a few times, you slide it down 2 frets. And there it is, that whole section again. moving swiftly on. That would be the next chunk worthy of our attention. And what happens here, bend the B string up a tone from the 12th fret and then try and drop the pitch by an octave using the bar. It's kind of quivery down there, but once you get it down there, you can then bring the bar back, but releasing the bend as you do so. So when the bar comes back to its resting position, the note is now B rather than C sharp. And from there, there's a little pentatonic lick where you go 12 and 9 on the B, and then 11 and 9 on the G, and the D, and the A, but with that slide at the end. So that whole section would be. You get the best results with a lick like this if you try not to pick too many of the notes. Try and let this hand do most of the work. And once we add those two notes there, the 7 and 9 on the A string, we can move on to the next part. Lots of fifth intervals here, starting on the C sharp, 4th fret on the A string, and then 2 frets higher on the D, 2 frets higher again on the G, and then 9th fret on the B string, and finally the 11th fret of the top E. So, which you slide down to the 7th fret. To get the appropriate rhythm, it's important to mute a little bit at the bridge and pick each note twice, so the second time in each case is a little more muted than the first. Okay, so there's a bit of a recap. So far we've got now this is a kind of hard bar to explain. Musically there's not that much going on. It's basically 16th and 18th frets on the top E. What makes it magical is the way you just kind of manipulate the pitch slightly with the whammy bar. So I'd suggest you have the bar in the crook of your little finger so you can get a little bit of upward motion and downward motion. And now we're going to have some fun. So that lick there, oddly enough, I believe was inspired by Jeff Beck, but Stevie kind of sped it up a little. What we've got to do here is, first of all, learn the notes we need. So that would be 19, 18, 16 on the top E, and then 19, 17, 16 on the B. Moving down to the B string, moving down to the 14th fret on the B string. And then very similar pattern to the one we've just played. In other words, the G and D string notes are the same as those ones on the top strings, but 3 frets lower. So once you're comfortable with that general map of the fretboard, we can move on to exactly what the notes are doing. Here's the pattern really slow. I think your best bet with your picking hand is to stick with a strict alternate picking approach. In other words, down, up, down, up, down, up. And remember that you're trying to squeeze 8 notes into each beat. As always, take things slowly at first. You don't want to be practicing the wrong stuff. Moving swiftly on, it probably comes as no surprise to any Steve Vai fan that the oddness continues. The next section sounds something like this. 2, 3, 4. all sorts of odd stuff going on there. Let's take things from the first note. So what you're doing here is bending the B string up a tone from the 17th fret. And then keeping the bend there, you now tap 2 frets higher and let the bend down. Then we have that part, which is basically this melody. What's that? 17, 16, 14, 16, 4. And in between each one of those, you add one tap note at the 19th fret on the B string. Finally pulling off to the 2nd fret on the B. So that lick again. Now the second instalment in this lick would be... So what's going on there, you bend the G string up a tone, tap an octave higher, 16th fret, and now let the bend down as before. And now you pull off from the tap note to the 4th fret on the G, and then to the 1st fret on the G. And now tap again, 16th fret, this time on the D string. Pull off to the 4 and to the 2. Now tap on the 16th fret on the A string, pull off to the 4, and bend up a tone. Finally a dive bomb at the end. So that whole lick again. All right, after that is strange noise time. 2 things we need to know about Steve Vai. One, he doesn't pay a lot for his strings, which are likely to break if you try too many of these stunts. And 2, he has this large cavity routed out underneath his trem plate so he can pull the bar up. All right, so the basic melody for this section is... which is all based around these notes. 17, 16 and 14 on the B string, and then 16 and 13 on the G string. But what Steve's doing, just to make things a little livelier, is bouncing on the bar. So each note starts its life a little sharp of pitch. And then you release the bar just after hammering the note with your normal fretting hand. Gives it a rather bizarre tonality there. Huh? Maybe I should explain that horrible noise. That's what happens when you pull the bar so far back and the action gets lowered so much that the string actually touches the last fret on the neck. And now, unfortunately, we come to that monumental tapping lick at the end, the one that just seems to go on and on. It should sound something like this. As you've noticed, there's quite a lot of notes going on there, so rather than just play the whole lick slower, I thought I'd chop it into 2 beat sections. Here's the first, nice and slow. There's your lead in, 16, 17 and 19 on the E string, and then you tap on the 21st, and that's actually the first note of the new bar, so it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And from there, you just kind of go for it. All right, so this lick is those notes there that we discussed, and then pull off all the way down 19, 17, 16, and now hammer the 19th fret on the B, tap the 21st fret on the B, and now pull off again, and now you go down to 16, 17, 19, tap 21 again, and now pull off to the 17th fret, and now to the 16, and slide down to the 14. Now hammer 16 again, tap on the 19th, pull off, down to 14, and now tap the 18th fret on the G string, and pull off to the 16. So those notes again would be... All right, right, the next two beats should sound something like this. And it's about here that this bizarre tapping technique will creep in, where you're actually using two fingers rather than the customary one. Normally when Steve Vai does this, it's so that he can cross strings more easily. So generally, if he's just tapped a note on the D string and the next note is on the B string, he might use the middle finger for the D and the ring finger for the B, thus saving overall movement in his tapping hand. So those notes again, it would be 19th on the E and then pulling off to 16 and 14. Now exactly the same thing on the B string. And now 18, 16, 14 on the G, and 18 and 16 on the D. So, and now this is where the ring finger comes in. You can tap the 19th fret on the B without moving your hand very far. And from that 19 on the B, you now pull off to 16 and 14, tap 18 on the G, pull off to 16. Ring finger again, 19th on the E, pull off to 16 and 14, and end with a tap 19th fret on the B string. So those notes again. All right, the next bar starts like this. Okay, so nice and slow. That is 16 on the B, pulling off to 14, and sliding down to the 12th fret. So 16, 14, slide down, now hammer at the 14th, still on the B string, tap the 16, pull off, tap 16 on the G, and pull off to the 14. Ring finger again now, 16th fret on the top E, pulling off to 14 and 12. Same thing on the B string, but rounding it off by sliding down to the 10th fret. Now tap the same note on the B string again, still the 16th fret, pull off to 12, 10, and slide down to 9. So that part there again. And the second half of this bar. All right, so what's happening here, all the tap notes are at the 16th fret. And you start out with 10th fret on the B, hammer onto the 12, tap the 16. Come back down again, 12 and 10, and then pull off all the way down to 9 on the B string. Now tap the 16 on the G string, and roll all the way down this scale shape, 11, 9, 8, 9, 11. So it's all the way down and all the way up. Then you tap the 16 again, pull off 11, 9, 8 as before, and finally tap 16 on the D string, pull off to the 11, and all the way down to 7. So those notes again. Now for the next bar, first two beats. As you can see, the same sort of pattern as before, tapping. Now you're trying to share the tapping work between those two fingers. All right, so the notes here would be 9th on the D, and then you hammer at the 16th with the tapping hands, and now pull off to 11, 9, 7. So, not the easiest pattern in the world, but there you go. And now you tap the 16th on the A, pull off to 11, and as at the end of the last chunk, all the way down to 7. So, and at this point, a new pattern kicks in. So the general idea of this is it's a 5-note pattern. It's always going to be a tap and a normal note on the low string, and then 2 strings higher up, a tap, and then 2 normal notes. So you might just want to start by looping that section there. So 14, pull off to the 9, and then 14 on the G, pull off to 9, and then to 6. So you'll note how I fingered that with this hand. I think it's helpful at high speeds if you've got a different digit for each string, even though you're on the same fret. And once you're comfortable with that pattern, you'll find a lot of the next section is basically taking that idea and applying it in different scale positions. All right, so to get back to where we were, the remainder of this 2-beat chunk is 14 to 9 on the A, and then 14 to 9 to 6 on the G, and then nearly the same thing on the D and B strings. Only difference being that this time that lowest note on the top string, the B, is a 7th fret instead of a 6. So that whole chunk again now. And now for the remaining 2 beats of that bar. Okay, so that would start off with a 9th fret on the G. You've just pulled off from the tap note. All right, and from there you tap the top E at the 14th and pull off to the 9th fret and then the 7th fret. And now the same thing on the B string, 14, 9, 7, slide down to 5. And now the next 4 notes, similar idea, but 1 scale shape lower. So that's 14, 7, 5, slide down to 4. And then to round off this lick, you just roll up 5 and 7, tap again at the 14th. Note the tapping hand is staying where it's put now. Pull off, roll down again, 7, 5 and 4. Now tap on the G, pull off to the 6th fret, and to the 4th, and what we'll be doing for the next section is sliding down to the 2nd fret, but that's probably enough notes for now. So that section again. Okay, and we're just 1 bar away from the end of the solo now, so hang in there. All right, the last bar starts like this, with this 2nd fret on the G string that you've slid down to. Now you tap the 14th on the D, pull off to the 4th fret, and now all on the B string, you've got 14, 4 and 2. On the G string, just 14, pull off to 4, top E, tap at the 14th, pull off to 4, then to 2, and then basically repeat those last 3 notes on every pair of strings. Sorry, on every string. And then when you get to the end, just pull off to an open E, and as always, when in times of doubt, dive bomb. All right, so those notes again. Now here's a crazy idea. Let's try that whole lick nice and slow.